Welcome to Inner Star Compass Healing Podcast, where I bring to you notes of hope for your healing. This platform was created to bring agents of change together to collaboratively talk about the different modalities and options for optimal health. Integrative health is more than a prescription. It looks like you empowering yourself to have the autonomy to select the nutrition that feed your mind, body, and soul. The contents on this show and website are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, and/or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified medical provider with any questions you have regarding a medical condition. And before undertaking any diet, taking any dietary supplements, exercise, or other health programs. This is Aletha Williams coming to you for another great podcast. Stay tuned. Hi, everyone. Aletha here. I am early today because the universe wants us to come on early, and I am with the Honorable Brett Peters, and Brett is just a bubble of sunshine and energy for me. So I'm going to let Brett speak for himself and tell us a little bit about himself. But Brett is coming from the Sunshine Coast. He is what we call a medicine man. And back in my heritage, we call them shamans and healers. And I just want Brett to have free reign to let us know a little bit about himself and how did your story bring you into that gift of who you are today?
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Aletha. Thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor to be here, really, to share with you, with your listeners. It's beautiful. So thank you to everyone that is listening and watching and playing along and sharing in the experience. I really am so grateful to have that. So for me, a little bit about me. Well, I really, I won't go through too much of the detail, but my spiritual path really began probably about 10 years ago, I would say. And it really came from this place of, I just felt like there was more potential in me that I couldn't get out. I just wasn't experiencing life in the way that I really wanted to. And a lot of it went back to childhood, where I really had low self-worth, and I became a people pleaser. I was really always the nice boy, the nice guy, but in doing that, I put everyone else above me, and I really struggled to get my needs met, especially as a teen and as an adult. And I really had codependent relationships, and I just didn't really know who I was, and I wasn't allowing myself to be who I was. I felt very unsafe to be myself. Always worried of whether I'm going to get criticized or judged, or what people are thinking of me, because my world was about everyone else. So really, through getting into personal development when I was about 18, so quite young, and just studying and learning, but it was all a lot of mindset stuff, which is beautiful and so important. But I think when I met my mentor, when I was about 26 to 27, that's when things really started to change, when he kind of just he shocked me into awareness, if you like. And I really started to see whoa, there is just so much more, and my eyes were just open to a whole new world. But also I saw myself with these fresh eyes, and that's when I guess I tapped into a little bit more of the mystery of life, saying, even being more curious about who I was, saying like, who is Brett? Like, who is the real Brett? And that's really where it began. And that's when I learned many different modalities from Reiki to something called alpha alignment to emotional clearing, which is kind of like kinesiology, and a few others along the way. And I've kind of come up with some more intuitive healing ways, healing modalities along the way as well. So I just love to play. Playing with energy is my passion. So I love working with people and helping them to heal, helping them to see themselves, understand themselves, unblock any energy that's kind of stuck. And a lot of the work that I do now is more about helping people to come back to who they really are and to kind of align this mental, physical, and spiritual, to really help them to realign with that so they can move forward as a whole being and feel really whole and trust themselves. Because I know that's when that started happening for me. That's when life got really enjoyable and it was just so much more fun.
Brett, I met you by coincidence on Facebook. I was just scanning through some different folks that are speaking, and just listening to your vibrational energy, it completely stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, okay, I need to listen to that. And that's where my intuition was so in tune with my body that I was okay, I'll stop and I'll listen to you. And so one of the things I absolutely would like the audience to know is that you have this distinct gift, that you're able to just connect to our energy field from afar. You don't have to be physical there, but you can connect to us from afar and be able to see what areas where there is flow and where there is no flow, and make a recommendations to clear, right? So can you tell us a little bit, how did that happen for you?
Okay, yeah, I would love to. So I guess really for me it was, I played with channeling. I really, for years, I was listening to Abraham Hicks, Bashar, a few other the channelers, the more popular channelers, and I always just wondered if I could do it. And so I would try vocal channeling, automatic writing to see what would come out, and that's when it really started to come through. And one morning I was just in meditation, and in the meditation, I just got this urge or the inspiration to type on my laptop. And I just opened up the laptop. I had no idea what was going to come out. And I just kept my eyes closed and I was just typing and just streaming information just flowing out that I knew this is not really coming from me or my mind or my knowledge, even using slightly different kinds of words and that I would never even use in my normal conversation. So from then, and that was probably, I would say that was about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer. And that's where it really began, but where it came through in that way. But prior to that, about 8 years ago, like I said, when I met my mentor, he was really the one to teach me to read energy. And because I was a body worker for so long, working with people's bodies to pick up where they're blocked and unblock the energy, that's where it really began. So I was able to, and it really, I mean, I didn't know that I was going to be able to do it. I really thought when I first began, I was like, how can I see something that's not physical? But actually it happened probably just really a few months from getting into that kind of work. I worked with someone with cancer, and I didn't actually know what type of cancer he had. It was an interesting one where it was his sister that just said, you need to see, she told her brother, you need to see this guy, I'm going to send him over. And she sent me to his house. He had no idea what to expect or what I was going to do. And I didn't even know. He just said, I've just got cancer, and that was it. And anyway, and I was working on his body, and I literally just felt something, and I just poked a part around his belly, and I said, this is it, right? I said, this is where the cancer is. And he said, yeah, that's exactly it. And that was literally, that's a moment I'll probably remember forever, because I really was like, whoa, I can do this.
Wow.
And then I guess it just developed, and then now I've got my kind of own way of tuning into my body rather than looking and using my vision. Just tuning into the sensations of my body and allowing it to come through, whatever feels true. So yeah, but it's been a work in progress.
Let's talk about that then, that exploration of your authentic self, and really, you mentioned that you're a people pleaser, and then you had to get out of that, and this mentor really helped aligned you into your true self. If you were to give anyone an advice about this, and the fact that relationship to yourself is so important, what can you say about stepping into your own skin and being authentic to our audience?
Beautiful.
I
know. I love that one. Uh, I guess because I spent so much of my life not being in my authentic self and wanting it, but not really even knowing how to do it or what it would look like. It was just such a breath of fresh air for me when I started to feel and give myself the permission to explore and to really be in that kind of energy, in the truth, in integrity. There's the two such powerful kind of energies in a way, and I guess that was the key for me to find people that I felt safe with to start that journey of exploring, where I could move through my shame and any guilt and any kind of fear and anxiety that was there in there. And that's what my mentor gave me. He gave me the space to really explore that, right? So that was a beautiful gift that I received from him. And I feel like the weight that started to come off my shoulders energetically was just incredible. I didn't even know that I was really carrying it until I started to feel so much lighter the more I was stepping into my authenticity, because I stopped carrying around the, let's just say I stopped trying to be someone for other people and trying to fit into, everyone's got their own version of us. It's not the real us necessarily that they hold. They've got their own, maybe their beliefs, their projections. They're seeing through their own eyes and their own filters, So when it comes to people pleasing, I was really like, I'm trying to match up to what they see in me and who they want me to be, right? So then I don't even know who I am. So that kind of drove me a little bit crazy in a way, because I'm trying to be 1,000 different versions of myself, not even knowing what's the one for me. So to be able to start to strip away a lot of that and to come back in and really bring my energy back in and my power back as well, to say that no, I just need to be me for me, and that it's okay that people might not understand me and people might not like me or they might judge me, but I've got everything I need in here and I can get my own needs met, and I've just got to come back to that. And that's where my focus was so much on energy, because I had so much more energy when I started thinking like that and feeling like that. So and that's
you said two things, Brett. So I'm going to put that up real quick, and then I'm going to write the other one, and so I don't forget it. But you mentioned like almost a prerequisite of this safety. The need, the feeling of being safe, and just to, if you don't mind, I would like to share just a 10-second personal story about safety. For me, I came from Jamaica, as we discussed earlier, but when I came to the States, I felt unsafe immediately. I had friends who were bullies in school. They did not accept me for who I was. And so I went inward and became very quiet. To tell you the truth, I am 50 years now, 50 years young. I still look like I'm 35, right? But
absolutely.
50 years later, I mean, no, not 50 years later, but I would say 30 years later, because I came when I was 13. That's 47 years. I can't add, but 47 years later, it took a dark night of the soul for me to start making decision to take care of my authentic self. I never once felt safe. And so this message keeps coming up around me knowing you. And so what I, as an intuit and as a sensitive spiritual healer myself, I believe that is the message that they want me to ask you to explain to our audience about the safety and the importance of safety in order for you to heal. So there's some prerequisites for you in order for your body to let go of energy, stuck energy. And I believe strongly that safety is one of them. So can you expand a little bit about that?
Absolutely, I would love to. So with safety, let's imagine that when we experience trauma or when we experience an event where we can't process the information, the energy, the emotions, it's getting dumped into the unconscious to be dealt with at another time, ideally. But if we don't get around to it, then it's almost like that part is kind of storing the energy and is split off from the whole. Now, there is still a relationship with that part, though. And this is where I feel like a lot of us, a lot of people that are on the healing journey, they tend to forget about that part, or in fact, they're pushing it away. So it's almost like, I don't want that part of me in my life. I don't want the anxiety. I don't want the anger.
Yeah.
Or all the things, the unpleasant feelings and emotions that there are, or patterns and habits and things like that. And that pushing away, it doesn't create a safe environment for that part to actually heal, because they're focused on pushing away and saying, I don't want this in my life. Whereas real healing happens when there's integration. That's where we become more whole. So instead of pushing away, the approach is almost the opposite, where we're actually bringing these parts that are wounded, that are still holding this energy and the emotions, back into the whole, almost like putting pieces of a puzzle back together and becoming more whole and more expanded as we do that. But they have to want to do that. If you've spent, just think of it as a child, a wounded child, and for years you've been telling them, you're bad, I don't want you in my life, you're no good. They're not going to really feel very safe with you then necessarily, So that's the flip that has to happen. So you create the safe environment for these parts, these wounded parts, to actually come back to the whole, and then you kind of have to invite them back in. And that is one of the key elements for them to trust you enough to actually come back, because that's what I find a lot of the time is, and there's a few other needs. I talk about 5 essential needs that have to really be there. They don't have to, but it's ideal, and that will kind of unlock trust in those parts, and then it's so much easier for them to actually integrate, and the healing process is much more natural and just smooth. Yeah, it doesn't have to be hard, that's for sure.
So you know what the next question is, right?
Of course. Yeah.
What are those other essential needs to open up our bodies and our souls for healing?
Okay, so really the 5 begin with safety, right? That's my starting point a lot of the time, because I just know that, especially with my own trauma and dealing with other people and kind of working with so many people over the years, it's, if I can create that safety, that is the first step for them to actually relax a little bit and to soften and to quiet down the nervous system, for them to move out of the kind of fight or flight state that a lot of people are in, into this just more relaxed and state of ease. So safety is the first one. Love and connection is the second one. And that's really, again, we're bringing back the power back to ourselves to meet these needs, primarily ourselves. Now, if there's the wounded child and they had a father or mother that they didn't feel loved by, even if the parent was actually doing their best to love the child may not have felt that, right? That connection and love. But if they didn't process all of that, then there's generally still a part of them kind of craving that from either their parents still or other people. It might then be coming out in their current relationships or with their children. It could be anywhere. So we start to say, okay, can I make these parts of myself, these wounded parts, now feel loved by me? It's a reparenting process, right? When it comes to that, healing is really about that. So that's the second one. The third one is acceptance, making them feel accepted, where this part is no longer, now we're not trying to change that part. It's more like, no, I accept you as you are, and I'm kind of welcoming you in just as you are. You don't have to change. Whereas before, it's almost like let's just say a child that might be saying, throwing a tantrum or something like that, or really not listening to their parents. And then they might say, no, until you change your behavior, we're not going to move forward. You can't do this thing. You can't come in, or we're not going to go to play, or whatever it might be. And this is just saying, no. How you are right now is perfect, and I can kind of honor where you're at right now, and let's move forward together, even with just where you're at, without you changing at all, right? So that's another beautiful step. The fourth one is feeling respected and seen. Okay, I kind of combine the two there. They're not exactly the same, but they kind of fit in with each other. And this is where a lot of relationships, I feel like, including our own internal relationships, actually break down in a way, because with the respect one, if we see another part of ourselves as less, then we often, it's kind of like this. It's just like if someone else sees you as less, well, you participate in those dynamics, well, you're probably not going to feel so good. You might feel small in the relationship. You might end up resenting them. And that tends to be what happens. So when the same goes with the other way around. If we put ourselves above someone, then we might be looking down on them and judging them and seeing them as, we're missing each other. We're not really able to meet each other where we're at. And this happens a lot of the time for people, especially people with, anything from chronic illness to addiction to any kind of trauma, where, let's just say, for example, someone that has a chronic illness, let's just use an autoimmune disease, for example. What happens is they start saying, oh, this healthy version of me is the best version. This is who I really want to be. And that's it. And what happens then is, over time, they start to put this version of them with the disease lower, and they say, no, I don't want to be this version. This version is less than this version of me. Now, internally, there's a split in energy. There is an inner conflict. So now, whenever I'm up here and feeling good and healthy, oh yeah, I feel great. I'm in harmony. I'm at peace with myself. But whenever this is active, it's just like, no, I hate this. I need to change. Something needs to be fixed. This is a problem. And there's no harmony internally. It's not creating a healing environment. So the respect is just so important. And also, in terms of feeling seen, it's more it's just a deeper level of acknowledgement. Like, I see all of you. I see where you're at. I honor you. And again, it's similar to the acceptance, where I can actually just say, you're perfect as you are. And I literally, instead of saying that was a problem or that was bad, I can start to honor them for some of those behaviors. For example, for me, I used to say, oh, I hated being shy. Everyone used to call me a shy kid. And I hated it. It's just like, that's why really, even in school, I said, I want to be a public speaker. I want to speak to thousands of people. My desire was from such a strong place of like, I'm going to break free from this stigma of being shy. And anyway, so, but that was coming from, a different place, obviously. Until I really came to this more compassionate approach. That's when I said, oh, no. The shyness was perfect. And that little Brett, he used shyness to keep himself safe. He used it as a way of retracting himself from unsafe experiences and environments and interactions. And, he avoided conflict and confrontation because he didn't feel safe. And in fact, he was doing it to get his needs met. And that's just the best way that he could come up with at that time, when he was just, 4 or 5 years old, to make sure that his needs were being met. And that is perfect for back then. Is there another way to do that now? Yes. So I need to communicate with that part of me to say, but not in a way of saying you're broken or you need to change this. It's more like, oh, that was so perfect for back then, and I totally get why you still want to do it now. But there's also this other way. And what if you come along with me, and I'm going to keep you safe even in those experiences, and you don't need to go into that pattern anymore, because we're still going to get our needs met, right? Nice. So that's the kind of honor we're bringing in. And then the final one is feeling heard and understood. And I think this is a really challenging one, especially for a lot of spiritual people. When we get on the spiritual path, it's not always that our families and friends that we had are going to come along with us, and I do feel like that. I work with a lot of empaths and really connected people, and a lot of people that they would call themselves the black sheep of the family type thing, and I had to go through that myself as well, of just going through this whole period of like, oh, no one gets me anymore.
Yeah.
And that can be really challenging. It can be really lonely, really
Yeah.
lonely. So the point there is to come back to this place of saying, okay, we're imagining now that these are just parts of myself within me. The most important person to understand me is actually me. And that's for all the listeners as well. The most important person to hear and understand you is you. And that has to be, if we can make that so solid, it becomes so much more okay if people outside of ourselves don't get us, and we don't need that from them. But if it's not being met within, we will seek that from them, and that's when we start to over explain, justify things, try to do too much to make sure that they get us and that they see us. But if that need is already met within, it often comes to this case of, oh, I don't need to try so hard. I don't need to try, So it's just so much more of an internal focus then when those 5 needs are being met within, primarily. And like I was saying before, that once those 5 needs are met, it opens up this trust with that part of you. If you've had a part of you that's been wounded or holding on to some trauma for, let's just say, 20 years, and you've had this negative kind of relationship or barely any relationship with that part of you, it's more like you can start to say, okay, I see you. I'm acknowledging what you feel, what you felt, and what you experienced, and I can see what's going on and why you did all these things. And now it's more like, I'm going to create an environment for you now because I know what you need. And I'm taking responsibility to meet those needs that may not have been met for you as a child.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna meet them for you. We're gonna meet them together, and we're gonna work as a team. And that's kind of the process. Yeah.
That was beautiful, Brad. Safety. So I'm going to recap a little bit on, as you can see, safety, love and connection, acceptance, respected and seen, heard and understood. Did I hear you correctly?
You sure did. It's perfect.
So, that still brings us back to you as an individual, right? Accepting yourself for where you are. I've been exposed the past 3 years to equine therapy, where the horses are the therapists and not the therapist,
Oh, beautiful.
the human. And one of the phrases that we say is, the horses, they meet you where you are at. And I really think that needs to be applied to ourselves when we are starting to do this inner work. We need to meet ourselves where we are at. And with that being said, Brett, with those 5 basic essential needs that will allow our bodies to trust and start healing, how can you get someone who maybe they're living in a situation where their environment requires them to be around other people, and they don't feel like they don't have any avenue to go on their own and support themselves, but so they have to live with someone, but yet they want to change. How can they do the work if they have to still work on the dynamics of not people pleasing maybe, but work on the dynamics of living in an environment where relationship is important?
Yeah, I see. So and I actually have had this experience with multiple clients in the past as well. So I feel like, and just correct me if I've gotten you wrong in any way or I'm misunderstanding, but it's more like the person is on their healing journey. They want to heal, but they're continually, in a maybe not abusive, but in an environment that's still triggering them and affecting them in a negative way. That's So really, I guess what has to happen is there has to be some level of space there, where it might just be in their bedroom, for example, and they set up an environment within the other environment where they can at least have some space. And now what I always get to first is sometimes physical space and physical distance isn't possible, like in these situations. So that's when it actually is more about the energetic space that I often talk about. So what I mean by that is, if you are with someone that doesn't feel safe, let's just say in the physical, when they're right in front of you, you're not going to feel so good, right? But if there's enough space, then at some point you're going to say, okay, this feels safe now. This, I feel okay now. And that's more like physical space. But energetic space actually works very similarly in a way where often people that continue to trigger us in environments as well where we're still getting activated, again, what's happening with the trigger, with the activation, it's often these wounded parts of us that still hold energy that's getting poked, and then bang, this part of us is getting active. So all we need is ideally some kind of safety, some kind of place where you can have even just a small amount of time each day or whenever you want to kind of go in, and you're kind of creating a little bit of a bubble for just a certain period of time to access that part of you. And that's where you start to, to really feel through some of the emotions that are there, and really acknowledge with them that it's going to be uncomfortable and that we're going in this, but you're starting to create that inner dialogue and connection with that part of you to say that I'm already going to start reparenting you before I can even do all the work. It's just having that connection to kind of come back within to ourselves to say, I'm going to do my best, and I intend to meet our needs for us and to provide that. But it doesn't mean it's going to happen every time, but I'm here and I want you to communicate with me. It's really like we're talking to a child, like an actual child, but now we're having the full conversation within. Yeah. And then as you go back out to that, that environment or with the person where there's so much activation, it's still this acknowledgement where it's almost like you're just kind of continually acknowledging within, okay, I know that you're activated, I know there's something there, but I'm here. So it's really beginning when we talk about the safe relationships, it's that beginning that process. If you've got somewhere else where you can go, especially to a safe relationship where someone else can hold you in their space to make you feel safe, even if it's online, when you're just connected for 30 minutes or something, like it could be a friend, it could be a family, it could be a therapist, it could be a healer, where they are kind of taking that responsibility in a way and providing that safe space where you can just kind of rest in it, and the other parts of you may feel safe there too. So I always encourage people to find at least one safe relationship, not necessarily physical space, but I recommend that too. But one safe relationship can really be the thing that takes the healing journey to the next level, because a lot of people, when they come to me, often they don't sometimes have any safe relationships. There's no one safe in their life. So that safe space can come from either the physical or in relationship. And then I would say that in terms of that energetic space, what happens is if there's activation with someone, then as soon as you come into contact with them, or even think about them, sometimes it's like bang, the trigger goes off. So now to talk more about the energetic space is really like when we can do the emotional work to acknowledge all the emotions that are there with whichever part of us is getting activated, we start to go from this being really entangled with someone else's energy to starting to separate, and then finding this kind of healthy, aligned, energetic space. And then that will literally change the energy in the relationship. It will change how you see yourself in the relationship, how you see the other person. And often because of that change, if you're in a relationship, it's like a container, right, where both of you are in there. And anyone that changes anything is changing the space in some way. So what we find is when we create some of that energetic space and do some of that work to remove some of those tangles, especially through emotions and beliefs and experiences where we're holding some energy, it starts to change often the other person as well and how they treat you. A lot of the
Yes.
time, like, you know, even when you're in your 30s or 40s, and I've had people that are in their 60s where their parents still treat them like a child sometimes, and they say,
Yeah.
why does this happen? Why are they still treating me like a kid? But usually a big part of that is that the child within them is getting activated when they're interacting with that person. So
So true.
yeah, so
Wow.
that's kind of what I see a lot of, and that's probably my I guess advice.
So that's kind of what we do as healers. And though we are both healers, we both have different lived experiences. And so, because of the lived
Mhm.
experience, we come into our gifts in a different way. And so, no two healers are the same. And so,
Mm.
one of the questions I would love to ask you, Brett, is that what are some of the methods one can use to access that inner dialogue? There goes my accent. That inner dialogue to reparent that inner child that needs that attention to be heard, seen, felt, and
Mm.
trust to go on to heal. What are some of the methods that you, as a healer, use to help someone get into that space?
Okay, beautiful. So one of the ones that I use that I love using is what I call emotional clearing or energetic clearing, where I'm really using my body as well to feel into the sensations of what's true. And we can also use things like muscle testing in the form of kind of kinesiology to pick up what are the emotions that are there. Really, this is the one of the keys. And I actually teach something I call the agreed to integrate process, right? And I'll just share a little bit about that now because I think it's really
Yes.
relevant. But step one of this process is really to find the who. Okay, when we start doing work on ourselves and healing, a lot of the time we are either working on our current self, or we might even say, oh, I'm doing some inner child work or inner child healing. However, that might actually not be enough to get to where the real energy is stored in a way. So an example here with me and my relationship with my dad, he was around, but he worked a lot when I was young, and I didn't get to spend much time with him. And anyway, I took that as something personal, that he didn't love me, he didn't see me, and he was doing his best, and actually he was an amazing dad, but it took me a long time to really realize that, and I had
Mm.
this resentment towards him for a long time. Anyway, I did so much work around him, many different processes, until I actually stumbled across something when I was doing it on myself. And I said, okay, why don't I do this emotional clearing work on another part of me? And I kind of just asked the
Mm.
question within, who inside me, is there a part of me that holds, the most healing potential in the relationship with my father? Is there
Mm.
someone that holds, more energy than another part? And it turned out to be my 14-year-old self. And the 14 that around that age, I got really serious with sport, and that was my way of getting my dad's approval and his respect, and trying to kind of perform my way to have him see me and give me that validation
Mm.
and love. And I literally did this process on myself, this emotional clearing, by going in and now acknowledging all the different emotions that the 14-year-old either experienced back then, or also what he's still experiencing now because he's still active now. And when I
Exactly.
did, yeah, so when I did that, I mean, and we're talking at many different levels here: spiritual level, a mental level, a level of expression and communication, a level of
Mm.
love, and a level of power and energy, a level of emotion, sexuality, creativity, physical body. Really, it's quite thorough. Where the conversation is to open it all up and to really say, I want to see and understand all of you.
Yeah.
And through that process of getting that right part, right, the first step, find the who, is I found the right part of me that held the energy. And I just cried and cried, released so much. And really, from that one experience, that one process, it was like all the resentment washed away from my dad.
Mm.
I accepted him for the first time fully ever, and I feel like I saw his greatness for the first time as well. So it was just
Mm.
an absolute gift for myself, and also the relationship with him. Um, and it just opened us up to something brand new, and from that day, I promise you, I have not wanted him to change at all since that day. It was just like full acceptance. He's perfect as he is. I saw all the, and it kind of changed the way I saw my past as well with him. And I said, wow, it unlocked all these memories that I couldn't remember. I said, wow, I remember this, and we had so much fun here, and this happened and that happened. And it just changed the way I saw everything. So that's why step one is really important. And I think a lot of people might actually, and myself included, for so long, I was just doing more general work on myself. But this is where we get more specific with that, as to find who holds that energy. And then step two is really where this emotional clearing comes in. We want to acknowledge the emotions that are there, that part is experiencing and feeling, and the unmet needs, right? Which is the layer below. So let's just say, for example, and the first two steps of this process can be used in any conflict within ourselves or with a partner. So and my partner and I, we literally use these two steps to resolve all of our conflicts.
Oh, wow.
And we went from sometimes taking hours or days to resolve things to just a matter of a few minutes often, by using these two steps.
Absolutely.
So let's just say you found the who, and let's just say my partner is upset with me. Okay, her name's Haifa. So Haifa's upset with me, or she's just upset. And if I try to meet her straight at where I think she's at, which is, the 31-year-old, and I say I'm coming to her in that way, I might totally miss where she's at. So I need to ask some questions or feel into intuitively, where do I think she's at, and is this another younger part of her active? So let's just say, okay, it's the inner child, it's the 9-year-old active. I could change my communication and come down to kind of meet her where she's at. And that's the first step of like, oh, this is creating a different connection. I'm going to use different words. It's a different dialogue. It's a different energy that I'm giving there. And then we say, okay, what's the emotion? So she might say, I feel disappointed. I feel, frustrated and upset. Let's just say that. Okay, that's at that level of the emotion. And now what's happening underneath that is what we find is there will be a need that is either not being met or that is under threat of not being met. So we get to that level, and then she might say, okay, I don't feel loved, or I don't feel supported, or I don't feel seen, like that at that deeper level. And I promise you, as soon as you get to that need, the energy just starts to shift. It's really like, it used to blow me away, that even within myself and also within her, we just start to soften and the energy starts to move. And that's where it's just like, almost when you acknowledge that need, that's where you can actually do something about it and say, okay, what do we need to do to get this need met for this part of you? And the beautiful things can happen there. And you come up with some kind of, new arrangement, or you say, okay, let's do this next time, or we intend to do it this way.
Absolutely.
And yeah. So I just love the process. And then step three is really the integration. That's where it's more like actually making a new agreement for this part of you to kind of come back to the whole. So if it's within yourself, and again, that's why we want to identify those needs, which needs are not being met. And then we can come up with some kind of plan of, okay, this is how we're going to get those needs met. And once they trust you, that's where they say, okay, I will now kind of come back to the whole. I'm ready to return. And that's when it can really start to soften. But that's where amazing healing takes place. So that's the approach. And we can use tools to do that, but there's also people can do that with themselves as well, just through meditation. I find that writing really helps, where we're just, even visualizing a conversation with this younger part. You just can ask the question, say, is there a part of me that wants to come through or share anything with me? And you don't have to get the exact age. It might just be, there's a part of me that it just feels really young, and maybe there's some anger there. That's enough to get the conversation going. And then you might say, okay, we're going to do a visualization where I'm communicating with that part of me, and I'm giving them permission to, let's just say, let out all the anger, and that part is screaming and yelling or whatever they need to do to release and move through those emotions. And then you can kind of step by step go through that process of then communicating and making.
I don't know what's wrong with my glasses, but it's all there's a I think that's the next question right now, Brett, and it's just so funny how he does that. The spirits do that. Sometimes when we're in our state, we have filters, like you were saying, you saw your dad in a certain way. And sometimes the filters are so dirty that you can't even see. I couldn't even see you for a second there. And so that's the question that's coming through. In this instance, the spirits are literally like, oh, we're taking over. We have a question for him. So in this instance, when the filters are so clogging, you can't see, and you don't even know that you need healing yourself. How can someone else who's holding that space for that person or providing social support, how can that person, just like you did with your partner, but a little bit different, kind of help them see a little bit that there is a need to move towards some more energy healing for themselves? Because if I were to come to you and say, Brett, you know what, you got some issues, man, we need to talk, that would not come across very well, would it?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. No,
so how can we, in an energetic and loving way, express to someone that we care about, that we see that they need some help? How can we get that help for them? But they have to do it themselves, and that's what's so important.
Yeah, I see. Well, I think that when I approach people, let's say, for example, my partner, then the first step is I want to check in with my state. If I'm also, let's just say we have some kind of conflict, and then I'm triggered and I haven't done the process on myself to settle my own energy, then it's just like, well, it might be like two kids having a fight, and then who knows what's going to happen. But there's not going to be a resolution very easily or quickly most of the time. So my first thing is to say, okay, am I kind of in peace, in harmony with myself? Is everything in order here? And that if I can get, sometimes, of course, that's not going to be maybe even possible if it's, in a heated moment where there's so much activation. It's not always possible. But ideally, in the majority of cases, it will be, where we can take a breath and come back and say, okay, let's deal with this later. Let's just take some space, and then bang. So I'm kind of going in to release whatever I need to release, feel through whatever I need to feel through, run that same process with myself, and then I'm going to the other person to say, okay. And with my partner, the thing is, with Hypha, it's just like I often say, would you like to explore this a little bit together? Would you like to see who's active within you now? And sometimes, she might say, no, I'm not ready yet. Let's do it later, or I don't want to. Or if I come across and I am already settled, my energy, and I'm feeling, where I can hold whatever it is that's there, that's when it's just like she is more receptive of that energy in a way. And that wounded young part of her that is actually active also feels like, okay, I can come to Brett. I can actually share. I can be exposed here, because he's not trying to fight me, or he's not going to try and change me. It's just like, so that's why I have to create that first. I have to be the invitation in a way, be this welcoming space for that wounded part to even enter my world and have some kind of conversation, So
absolutely. Love it. We have about 15 more minutes, Brett, and I want to just shift a little bit to more easy questions, but at the same time, some announcements about what you're doing in your neck of the wood in Sunshine Coast. You've been doing a lot of workshops, and to my audience out there, hint that I might be having him on one of these workshops that's coming up next year. Would absolutely be honored to have you on to collaborate with the workshop.
Love that.
So we talk about the individual, and then we talk about the couple in a relationship, or just being in a space where there are other people. There's a lot of folks out there, and I'm going to speak to this because it's been very heavy on my heart, but it also is a part of my research, post-traumatic stress. And oftentimes they used to say post-traumatic stress disorder. But so my research is actually trying to use equine therapy to help facilitate healing with combat veterans who suffer from PTSD. And so when you have someone that's that traumatized, that the memory of that person at that time when it occurred is so tragic, how can you get them into a space of safety and realization that they can forgive themselves and start to heal?
Okay. For me, it's doing body work and then changing to doing a lot of online work, especially through COVID, where all my work went online for some time. It was really actually, I didn't know if that was going to be so easy to create that kind of space and that experience, but it turned out that it was, because again, it was this co-regulation is what we're kind of coming back to, where when someone is not regulated, their nervous system is not regulated, as a child, what do? Well, our parents help us to co-regulate their nervous system through touch, through being close, helps the child to actually regulate their own nervous system and come back to this harmonious state. So the same thing is happening though energetically. And again, when we're entering space with someone, it's like a container. So if my energy changes in that container, then also that is going to have an effect on the other person at some level, especially if they want to come along. If they're coming to me for healing or coaching or whatever it might be, then that's the part of them wants to be able to rest in my energy in a way. So for me, I take a lot of responsibility in that, where I really want to be the invitation again. I want to be that open, whole, centered kind of safe space for them to show up in and allow anything to happen. I think the way that I do that is to really reassure them through mainly energetically. Honestly, it's not so much about the words, but I also then reinforce that with words to just give them total freedom and permission to be anything, that any part of them is welcome here, that I'm not trying to actually change them or even fix them, that nothing is broken, that there is no judgment here, that it's just a place where they can be, and we're just going on a little bit of a discovery and an exploration together to see what's there, rather than coming in to say, oh, I'm going to try to figure you out, or I'm going to try and fix you. No, the parts of those wounded parts, they don't like that. They don't really respond well to that, is what I find. So always I'm coming from this approach of kind of like leaning back, and I'm looking to understand and saying, I'm willing to receive you. I want to know more information about you. What can we, and then let's look together and use the tools and the different things to explore, but not coming from this place of, oh, I'm going to try and do something to you.
Absolutely.
Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. Just beautiful. Okay. So I'm going to give you 4 easy questions. And then after that 4th question, I'm going to give you even a fun game. I like to take a survey of certain words, and I play with the words, and then I make a chart to see how many people fall into certain regions. So that's the fun part. I promise I won't get you in any trouble. But the first question is, how does resiliency show up in your life?
Resiliency. I guess it really shows up a lot with mainly in, I would say, business. Actually, it's probably being an entrepreneur is something where it can be a bumpy ride sometimes, and also a place where a lot of your stuff comes up, a lot of the wounds, the limits, the trauma. There's so much in there. So I think that as well as the hopes and the dreams and the expectations, the attachments. So I really think that that's the main place it shows up at the moment, where I might be working towards something, and then let's just say if it doesn't happen, one of my main patterns is disappointment. And it has been for a very long time, where, the disappointment would really pull me down and knock me down. And the recovery process from that would take a longer time. However, now it's more like, if I can raise my baseline energy, in a way, and clean my nervous system. That's a lot of the body work that I do, is to clean the nervous system and keep it more stable, more consistently, and maintain that. Then it's more like a natural kind of resiliency, if you like. You kind of bump back up. The disappointment doesn't go down as deep, or even if it does, I don't stay there for as long, and it kind of just bumps back up more naturally. And I think that that's a big part of it. And really just choosing how I use my power. One thing that I learned is that the power is always there. And when we're not feeling powerful, it's actually a part of us using our power to not feel powerful. So it's more like that before, where I used to think something is missing. Oh, I'm disappointed and this didn't happen, or I'm upset, something is missing. This is actually, I'm giving energy to that now. And this experience, like, I'm not seeing the experience as clearly as I could, which is okay. I'm all for and fully validating and making sure I don't invalidate my experiences and the parts of me. But okay, what am I going to do with this experience now, and how am I going to respond, and what choice am I going to make from here to use it and to include it moving forward, rather than say, oh, this is an obstacle that is stopping me or slowing me down. It's more like, no, this is for me. This is happening for me, not to me. And I can use this energy into as a stepping stone into something greater.
Excellent. I absolutely love it. Love it. Next one is, how does self-care show up? I mean, it's a little bit different than resiliency, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think self-care was, when coming from the people-pleasing background and low self-worth, self-care was something that I didn't really have. I could not prioritize it. And that was a big part of my healing journey. Now it shows up in just being quite light with life and choosing joy and prioritizing joy, whether that's going for a swim in the pool or jumping into the ocean. I love surfing. I love listening to music and, just creating as well. I really find that, my partner, she loves doing pottery and cooking and things like that. But I just went for a class as well with her just last week, because it's trying something new, and that for me is self-care, and really just tuning in, I guess, to my body. I really use my body to guide me when it comes to self-care. And I often ask my body, like, what would you like today, body? Or, would you like a massage? And then if my body says, yeah, like if it expands, then that's what I'll do. Or if my body says, I want to swim, then I'll go swimming. But I think, it's a more intuitively guided self-care. I think I've done the other way before, of saying I need to do this and this and this, and make sure my self-care is there's a routine to it, and I tick these boxes. But now it's more like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to be guided to that. And it could be something brand new that I've never done before, or it could just be, I just want to have a little dance, and I just want to dance for 10 minutes and put on some music, which is often what happens, so because I love dancing.
So you missed out on that one, didn't we?
I know.
We have to figure out what's going on with my music. We were supposed to dance, so you're gonna have to come back on another time. I'm telling you. So part of your talent is that you are able to listen while you're talking to people, when you're in the space of healing. So I feel like you're stealing some of my questions. So how does intuition show up for you?
Okay. I think, look, I really, it does show up often as through my body, I would say. I really feel something, and then I'm paying more attention to the feeling of it, whether it's expanding or contracting. It just, and then the kind of words or the audio kind of comes through sometimes as well.
Nice.
But I'm really looking to follow my excitement. I fully believe that is how my higher self, the higher power is connecting through me and actually sending me communication, is through my excitement. And when I actually follow it, and when I know it's clear, I'm not coming from a place of ego or something else, and that's when I know I'm in my heart and I've been in that energy. That's when I really am like, okay, I know the messaging is clear. If I've been in my mind for, all day or something like that, then I might take a little bit more work to get clear on where is this coming from, or is this really true for me? But majority of the time these days, I'm grateful that I spend most of my time in my heart and in a place of alignment. So I just trust that if I'm excited about something, then there's something there for me. It's like, okay, I trust. Let's move. Let's make a move, and then life is kind of then making its move, and we're just playing together. It's just a big game that I'm playing with life.
I love saying the universe has my back. I trust the unknown because the universe has my back, and it will align me if I just tune in.
Absolutely. Totally will. Yeah, absolutely.
One last question for the rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
What has COVID taught you? I know.
So many things, really so many things. I'll try and be brief here.
You got 2 minutes, young man.
Yeah. Look, the main thing it taught me was, again, that, my experience can be so different to other people's experiences of things, that there is no one particular way to experience anything. Where around me, I saw businesses closing, including I managed a vegan cafe at the time. That business closed. People were having quite a challenging time with it. But I just really found a way and made a choice that I'm going to experience this in a way where it benefits me, and see what I can create from this and use it as an opportunity. And that's how it really happened. I took all my old clients and all my in-person business online, and then I started, actually, that's when I probably came across, you came across my readings. I tried many different things that I couldn't do in person online, and it just worked so well, and new gifts came to me, and so it really just taught me that, and instilled in me that everything is happening for me at some level, and there's a relevance to it, and that life is giving me opportunities to create from and use for my benefit and the benefit of others. So yeah, COVID is included in that.
Absolutely. All right, so let me give you the directions to these rapid fire question survey. Basically, I'm going to ask you I'm going to say 2 words, and without thinking, without hesitation, the first one that comes to your head, that's the one I want you to say, okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
You're going to say 2 words, did you say?
2 words.
Okay.
And then you pick one, the first one that comes to your mind, tapping into that intuition, right? Are you ready?
I am.
Red or black?
Black.
Fire or water?
Fire.
Drums or piano?
Drums.
Okay, hold on. My keyboard just did something to me. Sorry.
That's okay.
I told you my computer crashed, right?
Yes, yeah.
Cry or dance?
Oh, cry.
Oh. Hug or shake?
Hug.
I love it. Pretend or fake?
Pretend.
Chips or yogurt? So potato chips or yogurt?
Potato chips.
Love or anger?
Love.
Beautiful. What I do is I'm going to post the pie at the end of the year, because I just started doing all my podcasts for a month now. So I'm fairly a baby, very young with the podcast. Okay. Absolutely enjoying it. Absolutely enjoy meeting agents of change such as yourself, and I can only go further from here. I can only
absolutely. It's so beautiful what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And so, Brett, I want to say thank you for being that agent of change, for being one of the heroes out there that are being of service to the world and to the community, because it takes a special person to do each job that shows up in the world. And so being a healer, you have to protect yourself while at the same time connecting to others. And so thank you for being the person that you are. I want to ask you to leave the audience with any words of advice, or if you have any workshops coming up, or how they can reach you. Just the floor is yours for the next as long as you want. Hopefully not longer than 10 minutes.
No, not long. I'll have to jump off actually anyway soon. But what I would love to share with you is firstly just a big thank you to you, Aletha, for offering me this beautiful opportunity and inviting me into your space, and your work. I love that, being a part of your journey, and also just to really for you seeing me. That's the greatest gift that one of the greatest gifts I can receive from people. That it just always means so much to me when people see me. So thank you for that. And thank you to everyone listening and watching. I appreciate your time and your energy and your attention. I love that, and I appreciate it so much.
Yes.
So for me, it's really like, I just think from everything that I've shared, if you are someone that is healing from anything, whether it's physical or whether it's mental or emotional trauma, the approach of integration is there as something that you can use, coming from this place of compassion and understanding, rather than believing that you need to be fixed or that you're broken or that something needs to be created. Even can we see it more as a cleaning process, that you're this beautiful pure diamond when you're born, perfect and bright and shiny, and then over time life happens and then it gets a little dirty through maybe it's culture or tradition or school or the media, and then diamond gets covered. So now all we're doing is, we don't have to fix anything. The diamond is still beautiful inside at your essence. It's still all there. You're already whole. It's just cleaning away some of the things that are stopping you from seeing that purity and that beauty. So that's the kind of final message that I would leave everyone. In terms of what I'm up to at the moment, I have a course that is coming up called Becoming Yourself. It's an 8-week program where I really, support people and guide them to becoming themselves. I'm not trying to make anyone anything else but themselves. And that's why I focus on unblocking. And it is a cleaning process to uncover the self-worth that's already there, uncover the self-respect, uncover the trust, the safety, that internal safety. We're bringing all these things back into ourselves to say, no, I can actually be alone and get these needs met. And if people give me love and they give me respect externally, that's beautiful, and that can be a bonus. But on my own, like I've got it, and I can live my life and create a beautiful life from that place. So if anyone's interested in that, they can either reach out to me on social media, on Facebook. They can join I have a free Facebook community where I do energy readings every single day, so they can jump on there. So just maybe type my name in Facebook, Instagram as well, which is just Brett J. Peters. Or if they want to see more of the work that I do, and if they want to work with me in any way, they can go to brett-peters.com.
Well, we'll drop that down in the comments section of this video afterwards for sure. Brett, you are superb, and continue to be the beautiful human and spirit that you are. It's an honor to know you and to be in that same circle of healing where people are just coming together to realize that they're healing. I told you that I couldn't figure out my music, but I think I might. So we might have to do a 30-second dance here. Wait for it. Let's see if it works. Let's see if it works.
Okay, let's see.
I don't think it's gonna work. Nope. You're lucky.
Next time. Maybe for next time.
Yes. And so, guys, without further ado, thank you so much for all that you guys have done. And you have a beautiful evening.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you everyone so much. Thank you, Aletha.